Elias Kane sat alone in the cockpit of his small cargo shuttle, the black of space stretching endlessly around him. His latest supply run had been uneventful. Just crates of dried rations, spare parts, and a stack of old holo messages he hadn't bothered to open. He was tired, but not from work. It was a different kind of tired, the kind that came from missing someone. 2 years ago, his closest friend, Mara, had been transferred to a colony far across the spiral arm. They had promised to keep in touch, but life had a way of pushing promises aside. Messages grew shorter, then less frequent, and now, there had been nothing for months. He sometimes typed a message to her, but the words always felt wrong. How do you reach for someone when the silence between you has grown so wide? As he drifted, between two empty trade lanes, a sound cracked through the static of his comms. At first, Elias thought it was interference, but the pattern was too steady, too deliberate. It was a distress signal, but not one used by human ships. It was weaker than anything he had heard, like a whisper caught in a storm. He adjusted his scanners. The signal was coming from the edge of a nearby asteroid belt. A sensible pilot might have logged the anomaly and kept moving. Space was full of strange signals, and many of them spelled trouble. But something in that fragile, fading call tugged at him. He changed course. The asteroids loomed ahead, slow giants turning in the dark. His sensors picked up a small vessel wedged between two drifting rocks. The hull was cracked, one engine flickering in and out. It was old, older than any model still, flying, and coated in a thin layer of cosmic dust as if it had been wandering for decades. Elias activated his spotlight. Through the fractured glass of the cockpit, he saw a figure slumped in the pilot's chair. He eased his shuttle closer, using the grappling clamps to hold the damaged craft steady. The airlock between their ships sealed with a metallic thud. Inside, the air was cold and still. The figure stirred as he approached, a small elderly woman, though clearly not human. Her skin shimmered faintly, pale as moonlight, and her large silver eyes seemed both tired and watchful. "Easy," Elias said, keeping his voice calm. "I'm here to help." She blinked slowly, as if the words were sinking in through layers of exhaustion. Her lips moved, forming sounds that were more melody than speech. The language was strange, but the emotion behind it was clear. Relief. He checked the control panel. The ship's core was leaking a faint trace of radiation. Worse, the belt's orbit was slowly pulling them toward a dense cluster of rocks. A collision would tear the vessel apart in seconds. "Your ship won't make it," Elias said gently. "We need to move you to mine." Her gaze followed him, steady but unreadable. He slipped his arms under her, surprised by how light she was, almost weightless, like holding a bundle of silk. The moment they stepped into the shuttle's airlock, a low rumble passed through the hull. A shard of asteroid spinning silently in the void slammed into her old vessel, splitting it apart. They made it just in time. Elias set her in a padded seat and ran a quick scan. Her vital signs were weak but stable. She watched him with quiet curiosity, as though studying not just his actions but the way he carried them out. For a while they sat in silence. He didn't know what to say. Part of him still ached with thoughts of Mara and the long distance between them. He wondered if she ever thought of him anymore, or if time had slowly erased him from her days. The alien woman spoke again, her words flowing like soft music. Though he couldn't understand, the tone was soothing. She reached out, lightly touching his arm. Her hand was warm despite the cold air of the cabin. It struck Elias then. This stranger had been alone, adrift in the dark perhaps for years, and still, she had called for help, believing someone might answer, believing someone might care enough to come. He set a course for the nearest human colony with a medical station. As the shuttle glided past the asteroids, he found himself thinking about Mara again, but this time with a little less weight in his chest. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe, like the signal he'd just followed, there was still a thread connecting them, waiting for one of them to answer. He glanced at the alien woman, now resting peacefully. Whoever she was, whatever her story, saving her felt right. Not because it was his job, but because it reminded him of something important, that distance doesn't always have to mean the end. Sometimes it's just space waiting to be crossed. Outside the viewport, the stars shifted. The old vessel drifted away into shadow, disappearing among the rocks. The alien's voice hummed softly, almost like a lullaby, as if she knew he was still carrying his own quiet sadness. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he felt the faintest stir of hope, that when the time came, he would find the words to reach Mara again. Elias set the shuttle on autopilot toward the nearest colony, but his mind wasn't on the controls. His thoughts kept wandering to Mara. They used to talk every day, sometimes for hours, about everything and nothing. Back then, the distance between stars felt smaller, as if the sound of her laugh could travel faster than light. Now, silence stretched between them like a frozen ocean. The alien woman, Vera, as she had managed to say between tired breaths, sat in the co-pilot's seat. She was wrapped in a thermal blanket, silver eyes half closed, but alert. Elias had offered her water in a ration bar, but she had only taken a sip and a small bite before resting again. Every few minutes he checked her vitals. Radiation levels from her ship had been low enough not to be immediately harmful, but the exhaustion in her posture was more than physical. She looked like someone who had been carrying a burden for far too long. The shuttle's sensors beeped, a warning. He glanced at the display. A large debris storm was forming ahead, born from a centuries-old collision between two mining stations. The drifting metal and rock fragments spun slowly, harmless in small amounts. But this storm was thick and moving fast. Elias frowned. The shuttle could push through, but it wouldn't be easy. Vera's voice was soft but firm. Danger ahead. He blinked. Her words were clear, in perfect standard. "You speak my language?" he asked. "Now," she said simply, as if it was nothing unusual. Her gaze drifted to the navigation screen. "You cannot fly through. Too dangerous." Elias considered. "If I go around, it'll take hours longer. You need medical attention." Her silver eyes met his. "You will find another way. You always do." Something in the way she said it made him pause. He didn't know her, but her tone carried a quiet certainty, as though she knew him better than he knew himself. He pulled up the ship's old navigation files. There was a narrow corridor through the asteroid belt that might bypass most of the storm. It would require precise maneuvering, but it was possible. "Hold on," he told her. The shuttle dipped into the belt, weaving between massive chunks of rock that floated silently in the void. His hands gripped the controls, his eyes locked on the path ahead. The space between some asteroids was so small that the shuttle's wings seemed to scrape invisible edges. Vera watched him with calm interest, as if she were not afraid at all. "You fly with care," she said softly. "Not just skill. Care. That is rare." Her words caught him off guard. He thought of Mara again, how she once said he had a way of making people feel safe, even when the odds weren't in their favor. That had been years ago, but hearing something similar now made his chest tighten. Half an hour later, they broke free of the belt. The stars opened up ahead, and the debris storm was a distant, swirling shadow. Elias let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "You see?" Vera said, her voice almost musical. "You find the path?" Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe. But sometimes, I'm not sure if I can find it with people." She tilted her head. "There is someone far from you." It wasn't a question. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, a friend. We don't talk anymore. I want to fix it, but I don't know how." Vera closed her eyes briefly. "Distance is a test. If the bond is true, it waits. But you must choose to cross it." Her words lingered in the quiet cabin. Elias stared at the stars, wondering if somewhere right now Mara might be looking at them too. He thought about the half-written messages sitting in his comms log, unsent because he never found the right words. Maybe there were no perfect words. Maybe there was only the choice to try. As they neared the colony, Vera spoke again. You came for me when my signal was almost gone. You did not know me, yet you came. Perhaps you should send your own signal, even if faint. Perhaps she will hear it. The docking platform came into view, glowing faintly in the distance. Elias guided the shuttle in, but his mind was far away. The thought of reaching out to Mara still scared him, but something in Vera's calm certainty made him feel lighter. They touched down gently. The colony's medics would be waiting. Elias glanced at Vera. You'll be safe here. She smiled. Just a small curve of her lips, but it felt like a sunrise. Safety is not the same as connection. Remember that, Elias Kane. He didn't understand why she said his full name, but it carried weight, like she was sealing a truth inside it. As the medics approached, Elias felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. Sadness for the time already lost. Hope for what might still be found. Maybe he couldn't bridge the distance in an instant, but he could send a signal, and maybe, just maybe, she would hear it. The colony's landing bay was a quiet place at night. Most ships had already docked for the day, and the air was filled with the faint hum of generators and the smell of clean metal. Elias stood beside the medics as they guided Vera onto a hover stretcher. Her silver eyes flicked to him once, a calm knowing look before she disappeared into the medical wing. He felt a strange emptiness the moment she was gone. It reminded him of the quiet after Mara had left for her new post, when you expect someone's voice, someone's presence, and realize they're no longer there. He thought about leaving the colony right away. His cargo run wasn't over, and there were schedules to keep. But something made him pause. The way Vera had spoken to him, like she knew him, kept echoing in his mind. So, he stayed. The next day, he visited the medical center. Vera was sitting upright, looking stronger. Her hair, pale and almost weightless, seemed to shimmer under the lights. She smiled when she saw him. You came back, she said. You look better, Elias replied. Better is not the same as whole, she said softly. They talked for a while. She told him she had been traveling for a very long time, though she didn't explain why. She spoke about places beyond human charts, worlds lit by 3 suns, oceans that glowed in the dark, and skies where storms sang instead of thundered. Elias listened, fascinated. How do you know so much about the galaxy? He asked. Her eyes softened. Because I have walked much of it. And because I remember. Remember what? She tilted her head. That distance between people is not only measured in space. Elias knew she was speaking about Mara, though he hadn't mentioned her name. His chest tightened. It's been so long. We used to talk every day. Now, it's like we're strangers. Vera nodded slowly. You think too much about the perfect way to begin again. But beginnings are not perfect. They are simply beginnings. Her words sank deep into him. He thought of all the times he had opened a message draft to Mara, typed a few lines, and then deleted them because they didn't feel right. Maybe it wasn't about finding the perfect words. Maybe it was about sending something, anything, so the silence didn't win. Outside, the colony's sky dome began to shift into evening mode. Stars appeared one by one, like old friends returning. Vera leaned forward slightly. Do you know the story of the first human signal to leave your homeworld? Elias shook his head. It was simple, she said. A small, weak radio wave. Many thought it would never be heard. But in time, it reached farther than anyone imagined. And even if no one answered, it proved that humanity wanted to be known. That is your gift, Elias Kane. Humans reach out. Her voice was calm but full of something he couldn't name. Respect? Admiration? Reaching out? Elias repeated quietly. Yes, she said. It is not the universe that closes the distance. It is you. They sat in silence for a moment. The lights of the colony reflected in the glass walls, blending with the distant starlight. Elias realized that talking to her was easier than he expected, even though they had only just met. Maybe it was because she listened without rushing him. without trying to fill the spaces between words. As he left the medical wing that night, Elias paused by the comm station in the lobby. He stared at the blank message screen for a long time. His fingers hovered over the controls. He typed, "Hey Mara, I was thinking about you today. I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but I miss talking to you." He almost deleted it, but then Vera's words came back to him. Beginnings are not perfect. They are simply beginnings. He hit send. The message icon blinked, confirming transmission. He didn't expect an instant reply. Maybe she wouldn't reply at all. But a weight he'd been carrying for years felt lighter. As he walked back to his shuttle, the colony's night sky stretched above him, full of stars and unspoken possibilities. Somewhere out there, Mara's world was turning under the same starlight. And for the first time in a long time, Elias felt that maybe the distance wasn't as big as it seemed. The next morning, Elias woke early, though he hadn't slept well. His mind kept replaying the moment he had sent the message to Mara. No reply had come overnight. Part of him felt foolish for hoping. Another part felt relieved that he had finally done something instead of just thinking about it. The colony's main plaza was quiet at dawn. Elias grabbed a mug of coffee from a food stall and walked toward the medical wing. The corridors smelled faintly of antiseptic and warm metal. When he stepped into Vera's room, he stopped in his tracks. She was standing by the window, her posture tall and steady, not frail, not tired. Her hair floated slightly as if caught in a soft breeze, though the air was still. Her skin glowed faintly, as if holding the light of distant stars. "Vera?" he asked cautiously. She turned to him, and for a moment he almost didn't recognize her. Her silver eyes were brighter, deeper, as if holding entire galaxies inside them. "You helped me remember," she said, her voice richer now, layered like a harmony of many tones. "Remember what?" Elias asked. "That I am not only who I appeared to be," she said. "I am something more, something I once put aside." She stepped closer, and he felt a faint warmth radiating from her, not like heat from a machine, but like standing in sunlight after a long winter. Elias struggled to find words. What are you?" "I am a guardian of paths," she said simply. "In your words, perhaps, a demigoddess. Long ago I walked among many worlds, but I chose to live quietly, hidden, so I would not be bound to the endless noise of power. I wanted to remember what it was to be small, to feel the closeness of others." He stared at her, trying to understand. "Why hide? You could have done anything." Her gaze softened. "Because connection is not built from power. It is built from care. And somewhere along the way I forgot how to reach out. I drifted. I became distant." Elias felt something tighten in his chest. She was speaking about herself, but it sounded too much like his own story with Mara. "You found me when I was almost lost," Vera continued. "Not because you sought reward, but because you could not ignore the call of someone in need. That is what makes your kind different." Humans answer. He thought of her earlier words, about the first human signal to leave Earth, about beginnings that were not perfect. Vera looked out the window at the colony's sky dome. The simulated clouds were glowing with the first light of morning. "When you sent your message last night, you did what I could not do for many years. You reached across the silence." Elias hesitated. "I don't even know if she'll reply." "That is not the point," Vera said. "The point is that you chose to move toward her, even without knowing if she would meet you halfway." Her form seemed to shimmer slightly, as if the air around her could not quite decide whether she was fully here or partly somewhere else. "I will soon have to leave," she said. "My path calls me onward. But before I go, I would give you something, if you wish it." "What is it?" "A gift of sight. Not the sight of eyes, but the sight of connection. It will help you feel the threads that bind you to others, even across great distances. It will remind you when to reach out and when to wait." Elias hesitated. Why me? Vera smiled. Because you already carry it within you. I can only help you see it more clearly. She raised her hand, touching her fingertips lightly, to his forehead. Warmth flowed into him, not heat, but a deep, steady comfort. For a brief moment the room faded, replaced by an endless tapestry of stars. Between each star were threads of light, some bright and strong, others faint but unbroken. He recognized one thread. It glowed softly, stretching toward a distant point he couldn't see clearly. He knew it was Mara. Even across the space between them, the thread was still there. When the vision faded, Elias felt his breath catch. I saw it. I saw her. Vera nodded. Now you will not forget. Even when the distance feels heavy, you will know the thread remains. He swallowed hard. Thank you. You gave me back my own path, she said. It is only fair that I help you with yours. They stood in silence for a moment. Outside, the artificial sun of the colony climbed higher, painting the plaza in golden light. Finally, Elias said, I hope you find what you're looking for, too. Vera's expression was unreadable, but her eyes shone. Perhaps I already have. When Elias left the medical wing, the world felt sharper, warmer. The plaza's hum seemed like music. He didn't know if Mara would write back, but he knew the thread between them was real, and that was enough to make him keep reaching. Elias didn't return to his shuttle right away. He spent the day wandering the colony, almost absent-mindedly, as if his body was walking, but his mind was somewhere far away. The vision Vera had given him kept replaying in his thoughts. The tapestry of stars, the glowing threads between them, and the soft, unbroken light that belonged to Mara. He couldn't explain it logically. He had no proof that what he saw was real. But deep down he believed it. And believing gave him something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. That evening, he went back to the medical wing. Vera was sitting by the window again, though now her presence seemed almost too bright for the small room. You see differently now, she said without looking at him. I do, Elias admitted. It's strange. I keep noticing things I didn't before. People walking past me, I can almost feel the connections they carry. Some strong, some faint. She turned to him. Connections are not always equal in strength, but even the faint ones can matter. What you feel now is what your kind has always done without knowing. You reach for each other. He sat down in the chair across from her. But what if I reach and nothing comes back? What if the thread breaks? Vera's silver eyes held his. Threads do not break so easily. They may grow dim. They may twist. But if they are true, they remain. Even silence cannot erase them. Elias thought of Mara again. He remembered their last conversation before she left, how they had promised to visit, how they had laughed about keeping their friendship alive across the stars. Somewhere along the way, the laughter had faded. He sighed. I sent her a message. She hasn't replied yet. Vera smiled faintly. Then you wait. Waiting is also a form of reaching. It is telling the other person, I am here when you are ready. They spoke for a while longer, and Elias realized something. Vera wasn't just giving him advice. She was speaking from her own experience. She too had once let distance grow. She too had waited. The next day, Elias prepared to leave the colony. His cargo delivery schedule couldn't be delayed any longer. He made one last stop at the medical wing. Vera was standing this time, her posture regal, her glow steady and warm. She looked every bit the demigoddess she claimed to be. I am leaving, Elias said. I don't know if we'll meet again. You will, Vera said, confidently. Paths cross when they must. He hesitated. That gift you gave me, it feels like more than just sight. It is, she said. It is a reminder that distance is never as wide as it seems and that humans, above all, have the courage to reach across it. She stepped forward, placing her hand lightly over his heart. When you feel alone, close your eyes and remember the threads. They will guide you. Elias swallowed hard. Thank you. No, she said softly. Thank you. You reminded me of what I had forgotten. As he turned to leave, she called. After him, Elias Kane, you will find your friend again. I have seen it. Her words stayed with him long after his shuttle left the colony. Hours later, as he navigated through a quiet stretch of space, his comms beeped. A message. His heart raced as he opened it. Hey, Elias. I've been meaning to write. I miss talking to you, too. Maybe we can catch up soon? He stared at the screen for a long moment, smiling slowly. The thread had glowed brighter. Somewhere, behind him, Vera was continuing her own journey. Somewhere ahead, Mara was waiting. And Elias, for the first time in years, felt certain he could cross the distance. The message from Mara stayed open on Elias's screen long after he had read it. It was short, only a few lines. But it was more than words. It was a sign. A small, light in the dark. He read it again. Hey, Elias. I've been meaning to write. I miss talking to you, too. Maybe we can catch up soon? The corners of his mouth lifted. He could almost hear her voice saying it. Still, doubt crept in. What if soon never came? What if this was just polite kindness, not real reconnection? He shook his head. Vera's voice echoed in his mind. Threads do not break so easily. He typed a reply. Not too long, not too short. I'd like that. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here. He sent it before he could second-guess himself. For the next few days, Elias continued his supply run, traveling between small stations and quiet moons. But something was different now. The silence between deliveries didn't feel so heavy. He found himself watching the stars and thinking not just of distance but of paths. Paths that could be crossed. Every time he looked at the thread in his mind's eye, it was faint but steady, like a distant lighthouse. One evening, while drifting between ports, Elias saw something strange on his sensors. A faint signal not unlike the one he'd found when rescuing Vera. It wasn't a distress call, but a repeating pattern. He recognized it instantly. It was the same melody Vera had, spoken in when he first found her. Elias adjusted the comms and listened. The sound was soft, almost like someone humming. Then a voice, clear, warm, and unmistakable. Elias Kane. I keep my promise. His heart jumped. Vera, where are you? Her laughter was like the shimmer of light on water. Far ahead of you, but close enough to see your path. You carry your gift well. He leaned back in his chair. I wasn't sure if I'd ever hear from you again. I told you, paths cross when they must, she said. And I promised you something before I left. Do you remember? He nodded even though she couldn't see him. You said I'd find my friend again. And you will, she said. You've already begun. The thread between you glows brighter now. Elias hesitated. I still don't know how it will happen. I don't even know if she wants to really reconnect. Vera's voice softened. Humans are not made for certainty. You are made for courage. The courage to reach, to wait, and to try again. He let her words sink in. Elias, she continued, the gift I gave you is not only for your friend. It is for all the threads you carry. Use it. Reach for those who matter to you. Do not wait for the perfect time. It does not exist. He found himself smiling. I'll try. You will do more than try, she said with quiet certainty. You will succeed. That is why I chose you. The signal faded slowly, like a sunset sinking below the horizon. A few days later, while preparing to leave another station, Elias checked his comms again. A new message from Mara was waiting. How about a call tomorrow? I've missed hearing your voice. His chest tightened in the best way possible. He could almost feel the thread pulling closer. He wrote back immediately. Tomorrow works. I've missed yours too. For the rest of the day, he felt lighter than he had in years. The stars outside his viewport looked brighter, as if the whole galaxy had tilted just a little toward hope. And somewhere out there, Vera was still keeping her. Promise.